Yeah, so I'll get my introduction out of the way. I'm Luci Christian. Hey, my friends are coming. I have been in anime low these many years. Like low the years. I got in, well, and everybody, there's usually somebody will ask how you get into anime or whatever. I can tell you why I got into anime. I was just an actor. And I started booking voice, I started booking commercials, a lot of commercial work, radio work, TV work with my voice, and some on-camera stuff too. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I thought I was going to go to New York and be a stage theater person. And then I started booking a bunch of voice work, and I thought, what a wonderful way to make a living. This is so great. And I straight up got an audition to do anime at what used to be ADV Films. Does anybody remember ADV Films? Now they are Sentai Films. You may have heard of them in that context. That High Dive is their streaming platform. So I got an audition to go work at ADV. And I went. I was cast as like, girl B on the beach playing volleyball a million years ago. And I went home and told my roommate, well, I suck at that. They're never gonna have me back. I'm really bad. I don't know what I didn't know what to do. I don't think I did very well. So that was fun, and that was that. And the following couple of weeks, the stage director was directing a new show called Fullmetal Panic. And I was asked to audition, which I thought was a miracle. And I auditioned and got the lead and was like, but I don't know what I'm doing. And everybody's gonna know. I remember that's when I went on the internet, which is called dial-up back then, and found Anime News Network. And was like, oh no, people are gonna watch this and review it online. And they're gonna know I don't know what I'm doing. What a travesty. And the short story is that it has worked out. That was over 20 years ago. And that show led to over 400 shows, so many things. Because of Fullmetal Panic, I ended up getting to work up at Funimation, now Crunchyroll, because I was at a convention and Mike McFarland was there and he was watching Fullmetal Panic, coincidentally. And he said, hey, I've just been listening to your work. I think you're great. I'm working on a tiny little show called Fullmetal Alchemist. Would you like to come up to Funimation and play a part in an episode, play an episode character? I will pay you. And that can be your audition at Funimation. And I was like, yes, I would love to do that, please. And so that's how I started working at Funimation, which led to Nami in One Piece, and Wrath in Fullmetal Alchemist, and Honey Senpai in Oran High School Host Club, and Ochaco in My Hero, and Medusa in Soul Eater, and Eloise in Black Butler, and yes. Talk about two different boys, Honey Senpai and Eloise Dressy. But anyway, so I've had a pretty storied career. I've been super, super fortunate. Right now, the stuff we've got going on, obviously we're full steam ahead on One Piece. We're in the 800s, I think I'm allowed to say. They don't want us to be very specific. We are anticipating the 6th season of My Hero. We are working on the 2nd season of a show called Made in Abyss. That is like, so good. If you know, you know. It's so good. What else? So much else. A 2nd season of Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon is coming, or 3rd season? 4th season? What are we on, y'all? 3rd? 4th? Oh my gosh, how wonderful. So this is kind of the fun thing. We really never know if a show is going to get more than one season, unless it's already out. But when shows like Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon get movies and more seasons, it's always like, yay! Oh, it gets to go on! Yay! And the story gets better and better. But yeah, so that's me. When I am not doing anime, I live in Houston, Texas. We didn't know that Texas was going to be this mecca for anime, but hey, pretty cool. Sentai is in Houston, Funimation Crunchyroll is in Dallas, Fort Worth. There are about 4.5 hours between those two cities. So I've been making that drive for a long time. And when I'm not doing that, I have a family. I have 2 kids. I have a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old. They're girls. We're right in the thick of junior high and of elementary. I serve on 2 PTOs because I am a total mom. And I'm passionate about public education. So I do that. I read, I have a dog, my husband is cool. He has an extensive record collection that I know a little about. But not all about, but he knows about it. And because of him, we go see cool shows. Because that's his love language. That is me. I can't believe that I'm at 3 minutes and I told you my whole life story. What the heck? Does anybody have a specific question for me that I can answer before my compadres walk in the door?
If you could voice any character that you don't already voice, who would it be?
Oh, so many. So many. If I could go back in time, I want to be in Cowboy Bebop. But don't we all want to be there? Not that I could do any better, but what a gift to be in that. If I could voice, Attack on Titan is amazing. And Trina is about to walk in the door, and she's fantastic. And I covet her role in the best of ways. I told Mike, I'm not even in that show, it's just okay. And I watch it. I'm like, just put me in there. Let me get crunched. I don't even care. I don't even care. Those are a couple. So good. So many of them. There's so much good work out there right now. It's been really wild to be a part of watching the industry go from a very niche market where we wouldn't even be invited to shows like this. It was like, you got anime conventions and this is what you get. And then we started, anime started becoming a little more mainstream, and we would get invited to shows like this, but the anime actors would have a separate room than all the other celebrities. And, which we didn't care, we were just like, okay, thank you for having us. And now the market is what it is, and anime is everywhere. And it's streaming everywhere. And people who would never give it the time of day are suddenly like, look at these great stories. And what a time to get on it. It's really amazing. No, come in. We have not started yet. This is the pre-show. I'm just warming up the crowd. I'm the opener. So you can just drink and just kind of listen. Y'all who go to shows are like, yeah, that's the opener. Although we've been to such shows where we've been saying. Any other questions from me? Yes?
So I have a little boy who's 11 months old. As a mom, I'm curious, do your daughters go to school and be like, my mom's your rabbit?
She says, do my kids go to school and are like, my mom is gravity? Not until the last couple of years. This last year was my daughter's first year of middle school. And that was the first time she has come home and said, Mom, can I have a couple of friends to take me to my And they were Honey Senpai and Ochaco. Yes. But yes, it's kind of cool. Most of the time, my kids were like, my mom does this job, it's fine, it means she's gone on weekends. Although that's not always true. For about 5 years, I took off of cons because they were little and it was too hard to go to cons. So I didn't go for about 5 years. And then when I came back, everything was changed and actors were at tables with prints, and it wasn't like that when I left. And it's just a whole new day, But now they think it's cool. Mostly. We have the One's Justice game at home, the My Hero One's Justice game. Do they play Ochaco? No, they do not. No, they do not. My oldest stands toga. is a villain stan, and my youngest is Pinky, like Mina Ashido. She plays Pinky versus Pinky. Like, I know, right? Expression. Caitlin, I got Caitlin to sign the Pinky hat for her for Christmas one year. Any other questions for me? Yes?
So what are the questions you hear most often at panels that you're like, okay, this again?
How do you become a voice actor? We hear that every show, and it's not a bad question. It is the question if you want to be a voice actor. But we've heard it, we hear it every show. So much so that people have created like online places you can go. If you type in, how do I become a voice actor? People have created some really awesome resources for you to go and watch and read, because our answers are never going to be in-depth enough. For you, you should definitely go seek more information. But that's the one we hear a bunch. Also, shipping questions. So we love them because we love that you're into the shows. But the Japanese never want us to talk about shipping. If it's not canon. If it's canon, they don't care. But like, we don't get to sit around and talk about who we would ship with people if it's not a part of the story. Because the Japanese are very touchy about that, since we're associated with the product. So we just go, I think it's awesome that you think that, or that you drew that. It's fabulous. But we have to go. Like, I can talk about, I feel like, Ochaco and Deku, that's canon, right? I mean, we didn't make that up. They are cute.
Is this the Luci Christian?
Yes, it is. I am the pre-show, Jason. I'm the pre-show.
Oh, hey, I was just coming to see you.
Hey, you guys, Jason Douglas, everybody, everybody.
If you want, we'll come up there.
Do you know, I put that picture on Twitter of us this
Oh,
morning.
good, I'll retweet it.
So, you guys.
You'll get tens of likes.
We'll get to it. Okay. So Jason and I met in the Houston theater scene a million moons ago, and I have proof that I'm going to go to this. Oh, hi.
It's real.
You don't want to work?
I know.
You want to balance it? Thank you, sir.
Good job, Jason. Boys, welcome.
Hi.
So I was late to the show, and then I was early to this panel. So I have just been entertaining the masses. Yes.
Good.
Good morning. Welcome to the Luci Christian panel. We're actually your opening band, but we're late.
I've already told them about me and who I am, but you guys, so you guys.
Yeah, okay, all right. So,
Yeah.
Hi guys. Thanks for coming out for the early morning panel.
Yeah.
It's always tricky, right? But you made it. Congratulations. My name is Chris Wehkamp. I'm a voice actor, live in Dallas, Texas. And you may know me as the voice of Aizawa in My Hero Academia. I also get to spend a lot of time enjoying all your cosplay at these weekend events. Get to see a lot of Eraserhead cosplay. Always excited about that. If you're doing Eraserhead this weekend, please come see me at my table. I would love to hang out with you and just geek out a little bit. Yeah, what else? So I'm Lieutenant Inuwa in Fire Force. RWBY fans may know me as Clover Ebby. And Borderlands 3, I'm the CEO of the corrupt Maliwan Corporation, Katagawa Jr.
So you're the one.
That's me.
Hey, what's up? I'm Jason, and thank you guys for being here. I'm actually stunned to walk into this room and see it full. It's like full on one side and half full on the other side. I'm not sure what happened. You know, it's like a wedding where kind of, you know, one of the families is sure about what's about to happen. Yeah, I'm Jason Douglas, and I've never been on an anime panel before. It's almost always a very specific panel to a specific show. Is that the case? So we're just here to talk anime generally. We're kicking the tires on this new format. I appreciate that because I don't like to be pigeonholed, and I know you guys will have interesting questions. You may know me as Beerus the Destroyer from Dragon Ball Super. Thank you. Obviously, Krieg the Psycho from Borderlands. Not an anime, so we can't talk about that. Sorry, you'll have to come to the table. let's see. But I started at roughly the same time as Luci Christian, and I don't know who, you know, I don't know how we all got into it. I mean, I know how I did. A lot of us were stage actors, and ADV was this fledgling company in Houston. I'm sure she told you the big story, or you've read it online. But that's how I started, and some of my favorite titles from that era are Bubblegum Crisis 2040 and Wandaba Style and Gravion and Super Gals, which is this great. Yeah.
Did you send some of these DVDs this weekend? For Super
Not this weekend, but I would love to. That's my favorite thing at a con, is to sign some obscure thing that I loved that I thought nobody knew about or cared about anymore. And I still get requests for signatures on Azumanga Daioh. Any Azumanga Daioh fans?
Yeah.
Yeah. A couple of OG anime fans right there. And today I signed something from Psycho Pass, which isn't an old show, but it's kind of a recent old show that I'm very fond of. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. Hopefully we can talk about some more things. But yeah.
Yeah.
That's us.
That's what you get
That's
at
us,
10:30 in the morning.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think your idea of opening it up to questions is pretty good.
Yeah.
Good one. Who wants to be the first brave person to ask? Oh, that didn't take long at all. I know. Usually I sit here for a couple minutes and just guilt somebody into raising their hand. Yeah, go ahead.
So, this is a question for each of you. What is your favorite anime?
In the anime panel, how very topical.
I love Cowboy Bebop.
That's a great choice. That was probably going to be mine. It's probably cheap to say My Hero Academia, but I never miss an episode. I always watch it. But, you know, for a throwback, how about Gundam Wings? I used to watch late night, you know, delivering pizzas. I used to deliver pizzas when I was in college. And before we would go out for the night, my friends and I would watch Dragon Ball, and Gundam Wing was always awesome because it was just, you know, Dragon Ball is great and the fights are incredible, but some of the episodes, you know, it's just going to be, oh, they're just talking in this one. We'll catch the next one when they actually are fighting. I feel like every Gundam Wing episode, there's at least some mech that's swinging a sword or shooting a gun. So I was super into that.
My very first favorite show was a show that didn't get a lot of play when it came out a million years ago called Princess Tutu. And if you don't know it, you should totally check it out. It is the best show. And I just love it. I love it.
What happened? Can you give us the elevator pitch of Princess Tutu?
Yes.
I'm not sure what it is.
It looks like it is kind of a dark German fairy tale. The animation is really gorgeous, and it is about a duck that turns into a little girl named Duck that becomes a ballerina superhero heart healer named Princess Tutu.
Wow.
And there you have it.
In other words,
And I am
it's
all
an
of
anime.
Precious, gracious.
Yes, sir.
What is your least favorite anime?
Choosing violence.
That's the best question. Old and brave.
Somebody told me once that I should watch a show called Grave of the Fireflies.
No.
And I was like, tell me about it. And they're like, oh, I can't tell you anything about it. It's you have to go into it completely, you know, not knowing what's going to happen. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. I should not have watched that anime. I wouldn't say it's my least favorite, but it's so traumatic. It's a very traumatic show.
It's like being tricked into watching Schindler's List.
It is.
So, I mean, brilliant film, but you don't ever want to watch it.
Yes. I don't want to watch that
No.
movie ever again.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have a least favorite. Because somebody, I think it was Greg Ayers once said, my least favorite is somebody's favorite, and you don't want to crap on somebody's favorite.
Sure.
But I will say, there was a show that was my least favorite to record. Like the process itself, for whatever reason. And there was a show, it was Cyber Team in Akihabara. Does anybody know this? Is it your favorite? Don't hate me. But process of recording that was not pleasant. That's all. You know, from a production side. Sometimes it's just not pleasant.
Sure. Yeah, it's hard to have a hate, like, just because, you know, unless you really had a bad time recording it. You're like, oh, this is such a drag, I hate this show. The thing is, shows like that are so forgettable. I mean, it's not like you're ever going to go watch it, so you forget about it easily. So, I mean, there have been things I've done that were just bad. There was one, and I don't think anybody will be offended by this. This is a long forgotten thing that we did. You might remember this, Lucy. We did a title for ADV called Spectral Force. You remember that?
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, and it got really kind of, they kind of shot holes in it. And it was just a very hastily thrown together thing that I think was based on a video game, and it was an attempt to do like a sort of prelay hybrid animation thing.
Right.
Yeah, it was very weird, very bad, and very forgotten, very quickly. And again, so it's kind of an obscure title, and you're just like, I thought I was asking a cool question. I don't know what he's talking about. Spectral Force. Don't look it up. Speaking of looking things up, we talked about, you know, because some of these older titles that we enjoy, and my question is, where do we find those older titles? Because an interesting thing happened in the sort of, what is it, around 2008, 9, 10, which is the company formerly known as ADV kind of dissolved for a bit, and then it reorganized into a company now known, that you know now as Sentai Filmworks. But what happened in that transition is that they had to sell or whatever a lot of the licenses that they had, so they controlled, you know, much like if you think of now Crunchyroll controlling sort of, you know, My Hero and Dragon Ball and all those, they controlled the distribution on a lot of those titles, which was mostly back then DVD and whatnot, right? But because they lost those titles, so when Sentai came back and they started High Dive, that's kind of the distribution platform for most of Sentai's work. But most of the stuff that we did back then is not on High Dive.
No.
Because they don't own those, they don't necessarily control those licenses anymore.
Right. I think Funimation ended up with a lot of
With a lot of them, some of them,
I
if not.
have a response to that.
Yeah.
There is a company now, it's for buyers,
Oh.
Right.
okay, or collectors, okay, but Discotech.
Discotech.
Oh.
And then Right Stuff also works with behind the scenes
Right.
to actually bring back older ones too. They
Ah.
brought back like Emma, they're working on Dirty Hair.
Oh, right.
Yes, Captain Tyler is one of theirs.
Yep.
So, but Discotech would be your company for the older films.
Right.
They
So
just work
Discotech.
with the individual people out here saying,
Yeah.
hey, we're missing parts of this anime.
Oh, right.
And we'd like to put it on disc. Would you help us find the parts?
Ah, very cool.
Okay, and so they're very serious about it.
That is very cool.
So Discotech and Right Stuff, that would be a place to look. And is it mostly physical media, or are they also doing a streaming option?
Disco is strictly physical.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure about Right Stuff.
Right.
Okay, so, but I mean, we've purchased from both, but
Yeah.
we're anime people.
Yeah.
I watched anime early 60s, and I have watched it hardcore since the 90s.
Wow.
So my daughter has too. And so my thing for you guys would be, because I want to see you together again, thank you for coming to a convention like this. We come here because we like other media as well, but we love Knoxville.
Yeah.
And it's just a comfortable town, and it welcomes you, and there's a good place to be.
Well, thank you, Knoxville.
Overwork, we're what you call it, old school.
Oh, geez.
Yes, old school, we love it, but, and we've seen a little bit of My Hero.
Oh, cool.
Just not a lot, but we love Attack on
Well,
Titan.
it's there for
We
you.
love Attack on Titan, and so maybe you'll get something, but we love Generator Dawn.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
Generator Golf. That was another one of those older titles. Look forward to finding it. Well, I was going to say also, you can also find some of those older titles, not just on Crunchyroll, but I've seen them pop up on places like Netflix for a long
Yes.
time. Strangely,
Yes.
you know, so,
Hulu is running some things too, maybe not a lot, but they're running some.
yeah.
Yes.
Yes, purple white shirt.
First, I just have to say very quickly, respect the Starbucks cup. I would be, if I was up there, I would pull it. And my question is, what is the first anime you ever remember
first anime you saw? Probably Speed Racer for me. And then I'd say probably Speed Racer. But one of my first like real anime memories, do you guys remember that movie Heavy Metal?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Not an anime, but yeah.
It's not an anime, but it's similar, right? But that led me, because we went to a midnight showing of that when I was in college. This is dating me. And I was like, I want more art like this.
Yeah.
And that sort of led me into seeking out anime. Do you know what I mean? And I remember Heavy Metal was kind of a big
I think that was a big deal when it came out. That was a form of like taking animation to a different form and level of storytelling. And I feel like I was in junior high, but it was a movie I didn't have access to, but I really wanted to, because I was into most of the music. I mean, like a lot of the bands and stuff that were in that film were like, I want to, you know.
It was cool. It was very rock and roll.
Yeah, it was very rock and roll.
And cutting edge, my parents would not want me to watch this. So I want to see it.
That makes it even more enticing.
Yeah.
I used to come home from school, little Chris Wehkamp, and I would watch cartoons. I didn't know any difference between, cartoons and anime. It was just all cartoons. Except some of these cartoons, people actually died in. So some of them really appealed to me. And it turned out that was anime. Yeah. So for example, let's see, Voltron tries to really paper over his Sandbags, but it's so transparent. Like even as a 7-year-old, I was like, oh, that dude died. Like it was, Robotech, same thing. Robotech has tons of just gratuitous death. I'm like, how is this on TV? But I can't stop watching it. Space Battleship Yamato, which was Star Wars, when I was a kid. And so those, I don't know which one was first, but one of those three, for sure.
Yeah, the same Speed Racer, a bit of Voltron, Thundercats.
Oh, Thundercats!
Yeah, that was actually sort of before Dragon Ball. I think Thundercats was like one of the things that you could count on. It was on at some point in your town, and sometimes it was programmed in a prime spot, so you couldn't miss it. I think then it was later on in college that I saw Akira for the first time. And that was kind of a mind-blowing experience. And I didn't really have a concept of like Chris of like what is anime. There was like this other kind of cartoon, this Japanese animation, and what I'd always heard as a kid was just they're so bloody, and it obviously is silly. I mean, sometimes they really are, but yeah, that was my first exposure to anime, and then later on, Ghost in the Shell and some of those early big titles. And by the time I started hearing about, Evangelion is about the time I started getting into it as an actor, because that Evangelion, Neon Genesis Evangelion, was kind of the big title for RWBY Films that kind of put them on the map, because they nabbed the North American distribution rights, which included the dub and, all of the packaging and artwork. So for a lot of people, Evangelion was their entry to the wider world of anime, and they have, Greenfield and Ledford to thank for that. So. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So how do I become a boy? No. Actually, you've all worked on video games and anime. What do you find more difficult, matching the flaps for anime or doing the for video games?
I mean, more difficult, I don't know. It's, none of it's, I think after you've done it for a while, none of it's really difficult per se, but I would say flat matching is always a challenge. I mean, it's, the great thing about video games is it's just you, and, especially these days, they're really just matching to you to a large degree. Relay animation, same deal. But matching those flaps, it is such a strange little skill to learn, and the only way to really do it is to do it. You gotta do it a lot, and it's really hard to get those reps at home or in a theater setting, it's just, you gotta just do it a lot. So probably I would say flat matching.
Yeah, I think so. I think once you know how to react, the video games is it's literally sort of an Excel spreadsheet of what's going on and different sounds and a few call-outs, right? So you'll have, okay, these are attacks. So this is like slapping someone. This is punching them. in the face. This is punching them in the stomach. This is, and if you're that other person, you're just getting, so literally you're just going, duh, duh, you know, making those sounds. I heard once, the director once told me, and you guys may have heard this too, that a director said that they could tell someone new to the industry by their reactions. Because there's something about trusting yourself to make dumb sounds. Like trusting your body and your voice to really scream or really get smashed into, into oblivion or whatever. A letting go vocally that is just kind of what it is. That's what the job is. So if you want to do it, practice your reactions. You know? That's it.
That's a good question. Good question, yeah.
A lot of times too, what's kind of fun about video games is sometimes you have a Japanese track, so you have this long to say your line. But the Japanese is like, da-da-da-da-da! And you're supposed to say, you will die, you know, and all these other words, and you can't. Like, it's just not.
And the best is when you can see it right away, too.
Yeah.
But you're like, I guess we're doing this. The most recent example of that is I did Aizawa in My Hero, Once Justice 2, the video game. And there were some Aizawa lines that were just like that. It was like, you're going to pay for your arrogance. And then the Japanese savings line is like, listen. That's not going to fit, but here we go.
Especially as Aizawa, it's not like he's known for talking really fast.
That's a great point.
But video games can be tedious for that reason. Just, I mean, you might have a really cool cutscene to record, but most of your actual, recording is just endless loops of, and sometimes it's like they want, 4 different versions of a thing, just each one slightly longer than the other one, and then there's painful deaths, and then there's quick deaths, and then there's death by bullet, death by sword, death by electrocution, death by getting blown up. It's like every conceivable variation that you as a player might encounter. We're doing that. So
the worst was, I think, death by acid. Joel was like, all right, now listen, we saved this for the very end. We need 2 solid minutes of dying from an acid attack. So 2 minutes doesn't sound that long. But 2 minutes when you're actually, and then you're trying to find differences and variations and dynamics, and 2 minutes, it's just painful. And you want to do that one time. You want to do it once and you're done.
Oh my gosh.
yes.
Good question.
What is something that you're looking forward to the most coming up that you can talk about?
Oh, looking forward to the most.
I mean, My Hero Season 6 is coming in October, so that's pretty fun.
Super fun. And it looks to be fairly intense.
Oh yeah, I think this is going to be crazy season.
Like crying intense or like, oh my gosh, awesome intense?
Hopefully both.
Hopefully both, right?
Hopefully we'll see the return of Fourth Kind,
That's right.
who appeared in all of, I think, one episode. He's due, yeah.
It's overdue.
Dragon Ball Super Superhero comes out in approximately 10 weeks. Yeah, so get your tickets if you can find them.
And I mentioned before, my friends back here, Made in Abyss, season 2. Yes, awesome. It's very exciting.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite director that you like to work with when you're recording?
What a fun question.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Do we have a favorite director to work with? That is such a fun question.
Well, I always love working with Kyle down at ADV, or down at Sentai. So, and
Kyle Jones.
Yeah.
He's a treasure.
And then I like working with Kyle Phillips up in Dallas. But there's so many greats. I mean, I love, one of my favorites to work with is a guy who doesn't direct at all anymore. And that's Ian Sinclair.
Oh, Ian directed Black Butler.
Yeah.
You were talking about Alvin earlier. Ian is also the reason I am in, partly the reason I am in My Hero.
Is that true?
It's true.
Is he the voice of Whis?
Yes.
He is the voice of Whis.
He is the voice of Whis, but he also, well, and I'll let you finish, I was just going to say that he directed Black Butler, and he's the reason I was in Black Butler, and he was such an actor's director. I mean, everything was very, and really, sort of gently coaching to get you to a level that is better than where you started, which is what you want as an actor.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
In fact, speaking of Black Butler, I'm Eloise, and we watched the scene for the audition. It was the scene where he pumps her eyeball out. And I remember watching that and going, Ian? And he said, I think you should know what you're getting into. But yeah, I was not going to audition for any more shows because I had 2 small children at home. And I needed a little break, so I was like, I'm not going to audition for anything new. I will keep my One Piece and the things that I have, but I'm not auditioning for anything new. And then my hero came, and Colleen mentioned it to me, and I was like, I'm not auditioning for anything new. And I was up there working on One Piece while auditions were going on, and I saw Ian in the hallway, and he said, are you reading for my hero? And I said, no. And he said, what is wrong with you? He goes, you are Luci Christian. You need to read for that show. And I laughed so hard, but then I went and looked at the sides, and I was like, oh, I should read for this show. So I ran back to Colleen and was like, hi, I'm not on your list, but can I please read before I go home today? And she was like, God, would you? So that's the story.
Ian's responsible.
Ian is responsible. Yes, I should pay him.
I started with Joel at Funimation, so I guess I'll say Joel. Joel is now the voice director at Gearbox, and he was my first director at Funimation, and he made it so fun and easy to start out. Coming from the stage, I'm going into this booth just ready to emote, and and he's like, okay, that's good, but no. And he really helped me to make that transition, I guess. So I'll say Joel.
Yeah, Joel is fantastic. I always feel bad if I'm going to say somebody that I like, and then I realize, I had a great time working with this other person as well. There's a lot. So.
And Colleen.
Colleen's great.
Amazing.
She's great. I'm working with Anthony Bowling, is new to the One Piece world of directing, and he is a delight. It's so fun working with him.
He's hilarious.
He's hilarious. And he loves the show, and it shows in our work,
Sure. Up front.
Hi. I just wanted to ask what character that you guys voice that you have the most kinship with.
Kinship.
I'll just say real quick, and then you guys answer. I'm just going to throw this one out there. It's sort of Gildarts from Fairy Tale. And he's got this very avuncular quality that I think sometimes I'm accused of having. But also he has this weird, obviously funny and complicated relationship with his daughter, which is a whole thing. And I have kids, and so that kind of speaks to me in my situation. But
I was gonna mostly say that, just sort of like, I love it when I get to play sort of dad characters. Aizawa, I feel like, is a dad. He's a very tired one. I relate to that 100%. I got 3 kids, and I'm constantly exhausted.
For my eating preferences, I resemble Honey Senpai. But for my spirit, I'm very much like Ochaco. I'm a pretty peppy person. That's just in how I'm made.
in the back, we've taken a bunch up front. Sure, you got your hand way up. Yeah.
This one's for Lucy. I know that a lot of people know you from my hero as Ochaco, but I know you from 5-minute anime called Natalia. I just wanted to ask you, what was your experience about working on that anime, and that was my favorite one?
Natalia? Oh, so fun! So my experience working on Natalia was I had heard everybody was in Natalia. Everybody. And I was on my way to Dallas to work, doing my first session. And I was halfway. There's a place halfway. It's called Centerville. It's a town called Centerville. And there are 2 barbecue joints on either side of the road. And you stop there, and that's where you stop on the way. And I had stopped, and I was getting gas, and I got a text that said, "Can you do a Hungarian accent?" And I said, "No, I cannot." And the text was, "Check out YouTube before you get here." So in the car, listening to a little, trying to find Hungarian accents, and when I got to Funimation, they were like, "You are Miss Hungary. Here she is." And that was my experience. But it's so much fun because that show was so ridiculous and fun, and everybody on it was so fun. And usually, because I'm out of town, I feel like I was a lot of times one of the last people to record. Do you guys know this? We record one at a time. Do you know this? If you don't know this, we record one at a time. We're never in the booth at the same time. So most people would have already recorded usually when I was in there. So I was getting to, oh, Austria, oh, darling, like just ridiculous things to other people being really funny.
And you were a female America in that one episode. And
Yes.
that's like when I clicked and I'm like, I know this person.
Isn't that fun though? Once you know somebody's voice, you can kind of pick them out of your shows.
Sure. Yeah, the best is when people come up to my table and they're like, "I want to get your autograph on this Blu-ray jacket." And I'm like, "I'm not in this show." They're like, "No, you are. Yeah, you are." You're in this group of guys that all get blown up. And I'm like, "You're in this show."
That happened to me one time, and I seriously tried to talk the guy out of it. I was like, "Dude, I am not in this show, man. Like, I'll sign this if you really want me to sign it, but I'm pretty dang sure that I have no idea what this is." And so I signed it, and he walked away, and I'm sitting there, like, furiously going to my, "What is this?" And I was like, "Holy crap, I did this thing." When did I do that? Did I sleep through the job? Did I black out at some point? I lost like half my resume? You guys are more experts on our careers than we are. Do you realize that a lot of times? I mean, honestly, it's so true. It's so true. Kyle?
Can you explain what is additional voices? Because I see that on a lot. Is it just your own ton of background characters, or?
That's when you have, background characters, actors, you're kind of crediting them for the work that they did, but it's not really a recognizable character or somebody. It might be a shopkeeper that just in the script wasn't identified, get your roast chicken, and that might be the only thing they say. A lot of us have, especially in early ADV stuff, we have credit as a character, and then you'll find our name again under additional voices, because at that time, you didn't have loop groups and people that were just doing Foley and whatnot. It was just like, you would do your main character, and then they would be like, "Okay, now can I have you do some crowd voices?" So you might be in a scene with yourself, like you're talking on screen, but then the shopkeeper is you yelling at yourself.
You got to really vary up the delivery. Yeah.
A quick follow-up with a lot of the non-anime shows. They were limited in the day that you could only do like 3 distinct voices per episode. Were there any limitations for you guys, or could you be like 15 characters in an episode?
I don't think there's any limitation, is there?
No, there's not. Now, on union stuff, there's guidelines, but most of, and we won't get into all that stuff, but generally, anime. When you watch anime, you're watching a non-union production, and there's really no guidelines in terms of what we can or can't do, and so on those projects, and so it just depends on the budget of the studio. And 20-ish years ago, they didn't want to hire people just to come in and do those crowd scenes. It was really just like, let's get the main cast, the main 6 or 8 people who are in the show to do their role, and then we'll get those 6 or 8 people to also do 3 or 4 other minor characters. Plus, we'll pull in, Bill from accounting and Sharon from the front desk.
That is totally
Bill's
true.
got an interesting voice.
Yes.
And in many cases, Bill, whoever that metaphorically is, ends up becoming a successful voice actor because of that. That's a thing that
Or a
happens.
director.
Yeah.
Or a director.
That's how Doug Jones got to start, right? Doug Jones he was Doug Smith. Sorry.
Oh,
Doug
yes,
Smith.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Don't leave. Are we being that
Goodbye. Yes.
Gentleman in green. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just had a question. I collect Funkos, and I think all of y'all have different versions. Like, Aizawa, you've got the Eraserhead version from Hot Topic. The sleeping bag version from FYE has become a big hit. I just wondered if each of you have like a favorite version.
I mean, the
Or
sleeping
if
bag
you
was
actually have any of these at home. Because I mean, there are honest people like me that collect these things and absolutely love to have them. They're so much a part of the fandom now.
The one that just came out that I haven't got yet is there's a limited edition Aizawa with a chromed scarf. It's like a metallic scarf, and it comes with a shirt, I think, so it's like some kind of combo pack. And I'm just like you. I'm just like, how do I find this stuff? Like, you know, I wish I was somehow big enough that Funko was like, you know, Chris, we want to send this or something like that. It's not me. I'm just on eBay, like, all right, where do I find this for the best price? So. But I love it, yeah, it's fun. Funkos are great.
No, I appreciate the answer. Thanks, guys.
Oh, you're so fun. And I think if you told all of us that that would be a thing, we would have been like, what? But they're so cool. One of my recent favorites is a Honey Senpai dropped on Hot Topic out of the blue during the pandemic. And I was like, ah! So I have one of those. I have the My Melody Ochaco mashup. I have the Release Ochaco. I have a masked Ochaco that a vendor sent me during the pandemic.
Wow.
Out of the blue. I sat on the floor and cried. It was so sweet. I don't have the expensive masked Ochaco. It's just like $350.
Yeah.
Like, what? What? And I don't have the one for floating with the rocks. That one.
The most expensive Funko I have is of Weiss. Yeah, it's the one that's the rarest, and it was given to me as part of a promotional package back when the movies were. And so, yeah, I mean, I have a couple of Beeruses, and the problem with Beerus is they keep doing these limited releases, so you can get them for $15 or $20 for about a month or something, and then they're gone, and they don't re-release them, so they become rare. And then there's the King Cold one that was out, and then I also do sign the Psychos. If you can find a male Psycho for Borderlands, people often bring me those if they can find them. So a few more questions. Anybody here in the back? Gentleman in the brown.
Okay, awesome. So the big titles that you guys are in, like My Hero, One Piece, and Dragon Ball, they're ending pretty soon. How do you guys feel about that?
I don't know.
Bittersweet, right?
That's, you know, I think this is, it's like a lot of the stuff I loved when I was a kid somehow came back 20 years later. Isn't that weird? It's like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is maybe even more popular now than it was when I was a kid. I don't know. So are they going away? I mean, maybe for a little while, you know, I don't know. It's interesting how the American media landscape tends to, it's this Ouroboros constantly eating its tail. So I just never think anything's really gone forever, I guess. Yeah.
Plus, when we talk about soon, like with One Piece, we're talking about, like Otis says, 3 years is what he's shooting for, right? And Colleen has a pool going. Like for $25, you can enter the pool if you can guess the correct final number of episodes and the last date of English dubbing. And I mean, that could be 4 years, 5 years for us, which is soon, but not, you know. I guess talking about the whole timeline feels soon.
Sure. I think Dragon Ball is going to go on forever.
Forever.
I want to address something, and maybe you guys can help me with this. And you'll be interested in this, especially Lucy, and you might as well, Chris. I got a text this morning. There's actually a Twitter post, and he said this, and I'll just paraphrase it briefly. I'm embarrassed because I just finished Dawn of the Witch, and then I just found out that it was a sequel to a show called Grimoire of Zero. This wouldn't be bad, but I'd never watched Grimoire of Zero, and I was dismayed, blah, blah, blah. Is anybody here a fan of either one of those shows? Grimoire of Zero, raise your hand if you know that show. And then the other one was Dawn of the Witch. Do you know that show? Anybody? We have some. And were you aware that they're connected? You did not know that. I'm just realizing that people didn't realize that these shows are in the same universe. They have some of the same characters. Did you work on a Grimoire at all down at Sentai?
I might have.
Yeah.
Is that recent?
It's been a couple of years ago. I was the lead, and Amelie was the other lead, and then so here's what happened. It's very interesting and strange, and I feel like somebody needs to make a post about it. So there was a show called Grimoire of Zero about this. It's kind of a like sword and sandals, think fairy tale, right? You know, land of magic and wizards and whatnot. And there's this young witch, right, person. She's, I don't know, 12, 15, 16 years old. And then there's these group of people called Beast Fallen, and they're like these humanoids that have become, they've been turned into these kind of furries, basically. And they go on this little adventure together where he's trying to, discover his name. I think it has to do if he can find out his name, he can become human again or something like that. And she's, they're thrown together, and they have this lovely arc. And it has a fantastic little climax, and Ian Sinclair was like kind of the main bad guy in that one. He plays her brother. Anyway, long story short, this was a show that was recorded by Sentai Filmworks. They had the license for it. And it was a lot of fun, and it came and went on High Dive. And then just about less than maybe 6 months ago, we started recording a show called Dawn of the Witch in Dallas at Funimation, which is now Crunchyroll. And I was like, dude, I've played this character before. It was like, yeah, I just found that out. And so what happened is, there's this sequel called Dawn of the Witch, and it's kind of a sidequel. It's a kind of an expansion of the universe. And they basically, I guess Sentai didn't get the license for that one. And so they were kind of scrambling when they discovered these shows are connected. But they're not branding it like, hey guys, if you're a fan of this, then you should watch this, because it's the same universe, they're connected. And so there's a lot of people who are finding one show and not realizing that the other one is. Isn't that strange? And I've asked about it, it's like, well, what are you doing for the fans of the other show that, like, you could bring on board? So anyway, now you know. If you're a fan of Gildarts Zero, congratulations. There's a show called Dawn of the Witch that is an expansion of that universe. And if you only saw the one, then you got to do the other one. Yes, I'm getting a little time signal. So I'm going to have one more question in the blue air, and then I think we'll have to jump.
No, dumb question.
She wants me to ask if you could do your best impression of a chicken, and can I record your...
Of a chicken?
Yes.
I think I can do a pretty good chicken.
She also wanted me to record your reaction to this question.
Oh, well, I love chickens, because I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's a pretty good chicken.
That's a good So what's our actual end time? Are we done? Or do we have to be done right now?
You gotta do the chicken too.
Oh. I was just trying to get out of that. So.
I'm gonna, since that was such a good chicken, I'm gonna give you Aizawa doing a chicken. No.
This is my impression of a chicken. Ready? If you've ever owned a chicken, and I have, then you know what I'm doing. Okay.
Burning desire. We will answer very quickly. Yes.
I was wondering, since you're in Orion High School Host Club, which I didn't really know in the first place, but I loved that anime in middle school, what are your favorite 3 lines from playing Honey Senpai on that show?
I just wondered 3.
Let's eat cake. Favorite lines. Best lines ever. Burning desires? Yes? Bless you. You know what? From our deepest wishes to God's ears, I don't know that there is any plan for that. But never give up hope. There is source material that can always happen. Right? That is what I choose to think. Yes. Other burning desires? Yes?
What was the hardest character for you guys to get character for?
Oh, you have a hardest?
I'm the voice of Madara the cat in Natsumi's Book of Friends right now. And when I got the chance to audition for it, I just decided to kitchen sink it and just go completely wild and crazy over the top. I'm not really known for characters like that. But I booked it, and now I have to really figure out how to maintain this every single weekend. That's a wonderful challenge, and I'm up to the challenge. But there are times when I'm just driving in my car to the studio like, yes, I'm going to be a crazy cat today.
shopping arcade of the life. It is so, I love that show. I think it's so weird and so weirdly melancholy. But I'm a little Renaissance. And his voice was hard for me. But it also had one of my favorite lines I've ever said. And I'm sorry to all the children, I'm not a real cusser, but he cusses a little bit. And he says, they're in a world, and he has to relieve himself, and he's like, taking a TT off the side into the universe, and you just see the water going, the yellow water. And he goes, oh man, there's just something so sci-fi about pissing off into space. Best line ever, right? It's so funny.
And I played Misasaki, the transvestite person that I modeled after something I had done on stage a few years before, where I played kind of a New Orleans French Quarter transvestite person, and she was like, yes, I just love those boys at that age. They're so darn cute, and it was kind of wild.
You must see it.
We couldn't do that now.
No, it's, yeah. A lot of things are different in the light of this day than we are in the past.
And with that,